The hottest summer in decades had turned our quiet neighborhood into an oven. By 9 in the morning, the temperature had already climbed past 100 degrees, and the weather forecast warned it would reach 112 before sunset. Every homeowner had been told to conserve water, but our city still allowed irrigation during specific overnight hours to keep trees and landscaping alive. I followed every rule. My smart sprinkler system ran only twice a week between 2 and 4 in the morning, exactly as the city required. Yet when I stepped onto my front porch that morning, something felt wrong. The grass beneath my feet crackled instead of bending. The flower beds my wife and I had planted just weeks earlier looked as if someone had poured fire over them. I rushed to the sprinkler controller and started a manual cycle. Nothing. Not a single drop. I checked every zone. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from our HOA president. Maybe now your yard will finally match the rest of the neighborhood. My stomach dropped. That wasn't a coincidence. Someone had deliberately shut off the water to my irrigation system during the worst heat wave our town had seen in years. What Linda Crawford didn't realize was that she had just started a chain of events that would destroy everything she had spent years building. My name is Ethan Carter. 3 years earlier, my wife Emily and I had bought what we thought would be our forever home in Maple Ridge Estates. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't extravagant. But after years of saving, overtime shifts, and sacrificing vacations, it was ours. Emily loved gardening. She spent every weekend planting colorful flowers, trimming shrubs, and designing beautiful landscaping around our home. I handled the technical side. As a civil engineer, I installed a smart irrigation system that monitored soil moisture and watered only when necessary. It actually used less water than the average sprinkler system. Even our neighbors complimented the yard. Well, almost everyone. Linda Crawford had been HOA president for nearly 8 years. She acted as though she owned every home in the neighborhood. She drove a white luxury SUV with giant HOA decals on both sides. Whenever she pulled onto a street, curtains moved. People watched, not because they admired her, because they wondered who she'd target next. She measured grass with a ruler. She counted trash cans left outside. She fined people over flower pots. One family received a violation because their Christmas lights stayed up until January 3rd. Everyone hated her. Nobody challenged her. Linda believed fear kept neighborhoods beautiful. I believed neighbors should respect one another. That difference made me her favorite target. One afternoon, she knocked on my door carrying a clipboard. "Ethan," she said with a fake smile, "your lawn is unusually green." I laughed. "Thank you. I'm not complimenting you. I'm sorry. Several homeowners feel your landscaping makes their properties look neglected." I stared at her. "So, you're saying my lawn violates HOA rules because it's healthy?" She folded her arms. "I'm saying it creates unrealistic expectations." Emily walked onto the porch. "Linda, we follow every watering restriction." I didn't ask her, Linda snapped. Emily wasn't intimidated. "We've shown you the irrigation schedule twice." Linda leaned closer. "Sometimes following the rules isn't enough." Then she walked away. Emily looked at me. "Did that conversation make any sense to you?" "Not even a little." Over the next month, things became stranger. Violation notices appeared in our mailbox almost weekly. Our mulch was supposedly the wrong shade. Our mailbox numbers were too reflective. Our flowers attracted too many bees. One notice actually claimed our lawn looked artificially healthy. I appealed every violation. Every appeal disappeared. Meanwhile, Linda kept issuing more. Our next-door neighbor, Marcus Hill, watched everything unfold. Marcus was a retired firefighter in his 60s. He had lived in Maple Ridge longer than anyone else. One evening, he leaned over the fence. "Linda's obsessed with your yard." I noticed. She wasn't always like this. What changed? Power. Maku's sight. When people stop questioning authority, authority starts making up new rules. I remembered those words later. Much later. The heat wave arrived during the first week of July. The city declared a weather emergency. Meteorologists warned people to stay indoors whenever possible. Trees began dropping leaves weeks early. Lawns across town turned brown despite legal watering. Fortunately, Our irrigation system kept everything alive. Emily smiled every morning while checking the flower beds. We might actually save the garden. Then Linda appeared again. She parked across the street and stared at our lawn for almost 5 minutes. Emily whispered, "She's doing it again." I walked over. "Can I help you?" Linda removed her sunglasses. "I've received complaints." "From who?" "I don't reveal residents." "What complaint?" "Your landscaping. It's legal. That doesn't mean it's appropriate." I couldn't believe the conversation. "So you're upset because my grass isn't dying?" She smiled. "Things have a way of balancing themselves." Then she drove away. That sentence stayed in my head all afternoon. The next morning, I discovered every sprinkler had stopped working. The controller showed an error. Water pressure, 0. I checked the valves. Everything looked normal. I called the irrigation company. Their technician arrived within 2 hours. After inspecting the system, he frowned. "Your equipment's fine. So what's wrong?" "The main irrigation supply has been shut off." "By who?" "You'll have to ask the water department." I immediately called the city utility office. The representative searched my account. Then she became unusually quiet. "Sir." "Yes." "There was an emergency request submitted yesterday afternoon." "What emergency?" "It says irrigation service disconnected at homeowner's request." "I never requested that." She paused. Then someone submitted unauthorized paperwork. My heartbeat doubled. "Who authorized it?" "I'm sorry. I can't release that information over the phone." By sunset, the damage had already begun. Emily's roses wilted. Fresh sod curled upward. Young maple trees started losing leaves. Days of extreme heat without water were enough to destroy thousands of dollars of landscaping. As I stood in the driveway, furious and confused, a white SUV slowly rolled past our house. Linda Crawford. She rolled down her window, looked directly at our dying lawn, smiled, then drove away without saying a word. It wasn't satisfaction. It was victory. She believed she'd gotten away with it. About 20 minutes later, Marcus knocked on my front door. His expression was unusually serious. "Ethan, what is it?" I wasn't sure if I should say anything. "Marcus, what's wrong?" He looked around to make sure nobody else was listening. "Last night, around 11. Yeah. I couldn't sleep because of the heat, so I sat on my porch." He lowered his voice. "I saw an HOA maintenance truck parked beside your water meter." My blood ran cold. "Were you able to see who was there?" Marcus nodded slowly. "I couldn't see the driver's face." He hesitated. "But I know one thing." "What?" "I watched Linda Crawford get out of that truck. And at that moment, I realized this wasn't about my lawn anymore. Someone with power had deliberately targeted my home. I had no idea how far she was willing to go or what she was trying to hide. Marcus's words echoed in my mind all night. Asterisk, I watched Linda Crawford get out of that truck. Asterisk, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured Emily's dying roses and the young maple trees we had planted to celebrate buying our first home. They weren't just plants. They were memories. Every flower had been planted together. Every tree represented another milestone in our lives. By sunrise, I had made up my mind. If Linda had really tampered with my irrigation system, I wasn't going to accuse her without proof. I was going to catch her. The first place I checked was our home security system. Months earlier, after a series of package thefts, I had installed 8 high-definition cameras around the property. They covered the driveway, backyard, front porch, and side gates. I opened the footage from the previous night. Nothing. The video skipped from 10:42 p.m. to 11:18 p.m. My heart sank. "Emily," I shouted. She hurried in my office. "What happened?" "Someone deleted 36 minutes of footage." She stared at the monitor. "Can they do that?" "Only if they had access to the recorder or damaged the signal." Whoever had done this knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't random vandalism. It was planned. Then something caught my attention. I remembered installing one extra camera months ago. It wasn't connected to the main security recorder. It was a battery-powered wildlife camera hidden inside a decorative birdhouse overlooking the side yard. I'd almost forgotten it existed. With shaking hands, I removed the memory card and inserted it into my laptop. The screen flickered. 11:07 p.m. A pair of headlights slowly entered the frame. An HOA maintenance truck stopped beside my irrigation meter. The driver's door opened. Out stepped Rick Dawson. I recognized him immediately. Rick was the HOA maintenance supervisor. Behind him, Linda Crawford. She wasn't wearing her usual business clothes. Instead, she wore jeans, work gloves, and a baseball cap pulled low over her face. She looked around nervously. Rick unlocked the irrigation valve using a specialized utility key. Linda folded her arms. "Hurry," she whispered. Rick turned the valve. The water pressure dropped instantly. He looked uncertain. "Linda, this could get us into serious trouble." She laughed. "No one's going to notice." Rick hesitated. "What if Ethan calls the city?" Linda smirked. "He'll think it's a plumbing problem." Rick locked the meter again. Linda looked toward my house. Then she said something that made my blood boil. "Give it 2 days." She smiled. "That lawn will finally look like everyone else's." The truck drove away. The recording ended. Emily covered her mouth. I can't believe she actually did it. I copied the footage onto 3 different flash drives. No one was deleting this evidence. Not this time. That afternoon, I visited the city water department. The supervisor watched the recording twice. His expression became darker with every second. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Carter." "Yes." "Do you understand what this shows?" "It shows someone shutting off my irrigation." He nodded. "It also shows unauthorized tampering with municipal water infrastructure." "Is that illegal?" "Very." He immediately called another office. Within minutes, 2 city investigators arrived. One introduced herself. "My name is Detective Sarah Bennett." She asked to keep a copy of the footage. "We're opening an investigation." News spread through Maple Ridge Estates surprisingly fast. By evening, homeowners gathered outside their houses discussing the video. Some believed me immediately. Others refused. Linda wasted no time. That night, every homeowner received an email from the HOA. Subject: false accusations against HOA leadership. The email claimed my security footage had been digitally manipulated. It accused me of spreading lies to divide the community. Linda even hinted she would sue me for defamation. Emily looked worried. What if people believe her? I looked out the window. They won't forever. The following morning, someone rang our doorbell. An elderly couple stood outside. "Mr. Carter?" "Yes." "I'm Harold. This is my wife, Susan." Harold looked exhausted. "We think Linda did something similar to us." He explained that 6 months earlier their irrigation system had mysteriously stopped working while they were visiting family. By the time they returned, nearly $10,000 worth of mature landscaping had died. The HOA blamed them for neglect. Insurance refused to pay. Harold had never understood why it happened. Until now. Before leaving, he quietly said, "You're not the first." Those 4 words changed everything. Over the next 3 days, more homeowners came forward. A disabled Army veteran named Daniel Ruiz. A single mother named Rachel Foster. An elderly widow named Helen Brooks. Every one of them had experienced mysterious irrigation failures. Every one of them had argued with Linda shortly beforehand. Every one of them had lost thousands of dollars. This wasn't personal. It was a pattern. Marcus spent hours helping me organize everyone's evidence. "We're building a timeline," he said. "If this goes to court, every detail matters. The more records we collected, the worse things look for Linda. Violation notices, emails, maintenance reports, photographs, dates. Everything pointed to one person. Then something unexpected happened. Late Friday afternoon, my phone rang. "Mr. Carter, this is Jessica Morales. I work in the HOA management office." Her voice trembled. "I think you should know." "What?" "I've seen emails." "What kind of emails?" "Emails Linda told us to delete." My pulse quickened. Jessica agreed to meet us at a nearby coffee shop. She arrived carrying a small envelope. "I can't stay long." She slid several printed pages across the table. "They're internal HOA emails." I began reading. One sentence immediately stood out. Asterisk, pressure difficult homeowners until they either comply or sell. Asterisk, another read. Asterisk, use landscaping violations whenever possible. Asterisk, then another. Asterisk, target Carter's property first. Asterisk, Emily looked horrified. This was planned. Jessica nodded. There are dozens more. Why are you helping us? She looked down. Because I realized innocent people were being hurt. That evening we returned home, feeling hopeful for the first time. Then I noticed something strange. Our mailbox lay, smashed beside the curb. The security camera had also been spray-painted black. Taped to the front door was another HOA notice. Final warning. Asterisk, further false accusations against the association will result in $25,000 in legal penalties. Asterisk, there was no signature, only the HOA logo. Emily whispered, "She's trying to scare us." I slowly removed the notice. No. I looked toward Linda's house across the neighborhood. She's scared. The next morning, Detective Sarah Bennett called. "Mr. Carter, we've confirmed something important." "What is it?" "The utility key used in your video belongs to the city." "So, it disappeared from a locked maintenance facility 2 months ago." My stomach tightened. This investigation just became much larger. Before hanging up, she added one final sentence. "The district attorney's office is now involved." I looked at Emily. Linda Crawford thought she had destroyed a lawn. Instead, she had just triggered a criminal investigation that threatened to expose years of corruption hidden beneath Maple Ridge Estates. And deep down, I knew the biggest secret still hadn't been uncovered. The phone never stopped ringing after Detective Sarah Bennett told me the district attorney's office had joined the investigation. Reporters called. Neighbors called. Even homeowners from nearby communities reached out to share stories about their own HOAs. But I ignored the attention. I only cared about one thing: the truth. 3 days later, city investigators arrived at Maple Ridge Estates before sunrise. 2 marked police vehicles blocked the entrance. Several unmarked SUVs followed behind them. Detectives walked directly into the HOA clubhouse, carrying boxes of evidence. Residents gathered outside, whispering among themselves. For the first time in years, Linda Crawford looked nervous. She tried to stop the investigators. "You can't just walk in here," she shouted. Detective Sarah Bennett calmly handed her a document. "We have a search warrant." Linda's confident smile disappeared. Inside the clubhouse, investigators seized computers, financial records, maintenance logs, and email backups. One detective carefully removed the office server. Linda repeatedly insisted the HOA had done nothing wrong. "This is political harassment," she argued. But no one listened. By noon, boxes of evidence were being loaded into city vehicles. Marcus stood beside me, watching it all unfold. "They're digging deeper than sprinklers now." He was right. 2 days later, Detective Bennett invited Emily and me to the city offices. She spread several folders across a conference table. "What you're about to see explains everything." The first folder contained bank statements. Thousands of dollars labeled as landscaping maintenance had been paid to companies that didn't exist. The second folder contained contractor invoices. Many were fake. The signatures didn't match. The addresses belonged to empty lots. Then came the third folder. It listed every homeowner who had received repeated HOA violations over the past 5 years. One column caught my attention. Next to certain names was a handwritten note. "High pressure." Another column read, "Likely to sell." Detective Bennett folded her hands. "We believe the HOA intentionally harassed certain homeowners until they moved away." Emily looked shocked. "So this was never about community rules?" "No, it was about control." That afternoon, another bombshell exploded. Rick Dawson had been arrested. Unlike Linda, Rick didn't try to fight the evidence. Within hours, he asked for a lawyer. The following morning, he requested another meeting. This time, he wanted to cooperate. Detective Bennett later played part of Rick's recorded statement for us. "I never wanted to hurt anybody," Rick admitted. Linda said we were protecting property values. He explained how she ordered maintenance crews to issue unnecessary violations. She instructed employees to photograph minor issues and exaggerate them. When homeowners argued, she increased the fines. If someone refused to comply, she looked for another excuse. Grass, paint, flowers, mailboxes, anything. Then Rick confessed something even worse. The irrigation shutoffs weren't isolated incidents. Linda had ordered them several times over the years. She called it natural enforcement, Rick said bitterly. She believed dead landscaping forced people to obey. The room fell silent. Within a week, nearly 20 homeowners joined together in a civil lawsuit. The courtroom quickly filled with residents, reporters, and attorneys. Linda arrived wearing an expensive gray suit. She smiled confidently for the cameras, as though she expected another easy victory. When the trial began, her attorney argued that Ethan Carter had created a false story to avoid HOA fines. Then our attorney stood. He displayed the wildlife camera footage on a large courtroom screen. Every juror watched Linda climb out of the HOA truck. Every juror watched Rick unlock the irrigation valve. Every juror heard Linda say, "Give it 2 days. That lawn will finally look like everyone else's." The courtroom was completely silent. Linda stared at the screen. She didn't say a word. The next witness was Marcus Hill. He calmly described seeing the HOA truck parked outside my property that night. His testimony matched the video perfectly. Then Harold and Susan testified about losing years of landscaping. Daniel Ruiz described how his irrigation had mysteriously stopped after arguing with Linda over a wheelchair-accessible garden path. Rachel Foster broke into tears while explaining how HOA fines nearly forced her to lose her home. One after another, the stories painted the same picture: fear, harassment, abuse of power. Finally, Rick Dawson entered the courtroom. Linda looked relieved until he took the witness stand. He didn't even look at her. I was following Linda Crawford's orders. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Rick described every illegal irrigation shutdown. He admitted helping create false maintenance reports. He confessed to deleting security footage whenever possible. Then he pointed directly toward Linda. Everything came from her. Linda suddenly stood. "He's lying." The judge immediately ordered her to sit down. For the first time since this nightmare began, Linda looked frightened. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury returned. The courtroom held its breath. The foreperson stood. "We find in favor of the plaintiffs." A wave of relief swept through the room. The jury awarded millions of dollars in combined damages to the affected homeowners. The judge permanently removed Linda from serving on any HOA board connected to the case. The district attorney announced separate criminal charges, including utility tampering, fraud, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy. As deputies approached, Linda looked at me one last time. "This isn't over," she whispered. I calmly replied, "It was over the moment you believed nobody would question you." The deputies escorted her from the courtroom. This time, there was no luxury SUV waiting outside, only a police vehicle. Months later, Maple Ridge Estates looked like a completely different neighborhood. The old HOA board resigned. Residents voted for a new board made up of ordinary homeowners. Board meetings became open to everyone. Financial records were published online. Every major decision required a community vote. For the first time in years, people actually smiled while walking their dogs. Emily replanted her flower garden. The city restored our irrigation service, and our young maple trees slowly recovered. Not every plant survived, but enough did. One warm evening, Marcus walked over while the sprinklers gently watered the lawn during the city's approved watering hours. He laughed. "Looks like your grass won after all." I smiled. It was never about the grass. He nodded. "I know. It was about standing up before people like Linda convinced everyone that abuse was normal." Marcus looked across the neighborhood. "You know, I've lived here 30 years. I've never seen this place so peaceful." Neither had I. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, children rode bicycles through the streets while neighbors chatted on their porches. No one was afraid of receiving another ridiculous violation notice. No one worried about secret retaliation. The neighborhood finally felt like a community again. Looking at the healthy lawn Emily had worked so hard to restore, I realized something important. Linda Crawford thought cutting off my sprinklers during a deadly heat wave would destroy everything I loved. Instead, her own greed, arrogance, and hunger for control destroyed everything she had built. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive with sirens or headlines. Sometimes it begins with one neighbor willing to speak up, one hidden camera, and one person refusing to stay silent.
Subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for new updates.